So this is another Distingo Ultra beta preview clip. I'm going to show setting up Distingo Ultra on a regular mesh. In this case we've got just a regular plane. The important thing to remember is if you are using Distingo Ultra on a mesh and not a terrain, is that it has a mesh collider. Without that you can't get back the data from the painting tool to know what goes where. So that's obviously all this will be in the documentation when I get around to writing it, and I'll push it out online as well. So obviously this is still in beta, so I've still got little bugs and issues, and I dare say one or two of them will crop up now. I might find things I don't know about, but this is just to give you an idea of how you can set it up on a regular mesh. But it's also exactly the same as setting it up on a terrain. On a terrain there's an extra step if you want to use it, which is to go off and grab that current terrain's set of splat maps and textures, and it'll sort those out and bake them into Distingo Ultra for you prior to use. But they tend to leave, because of I'm using texture atlases at the moment, and I've got an issue with those in that at some UV multipliers they leave seams. But anyway, I can cover those as they crop up. So the first thing I'm going to do, so this is the mesh I'm going to use Distingo Ultra on. Just drag and drop it on. As you can see, it's gone black, and I get this little painting tool. We'll cover that in a second, but just to show you that it goes into the mesh renderer and replaces it with the Distingo Ultra shader or material that it generates in code. This can be changed through the global settings. At the moment I've only got one set up. So height blend with tessellation and standard PBR. So that's going to be our standard PBR shader, or Unity's standard PBR shader, but it's going to use height blending on the textures and tessellation. Tessellation I'll show you in a moment, but I'm going to show you the actual painting and what we can do with height blending as well. So as you can see, at the moment we've got this this mesh. The splat map mode is completely black. We can look at our maps in the Atlas settings, and so in the Atlas settings, come on Unity, let me drag that out. What's the matter with you? God, it's a pain in the bum. Right, so yeah, so it's already set up the splat map for us, and that's going to be 4 splat maps. Splat map 1, 2, 3 and 4. It will then, once we've started giving it textures, build diffuse, normal, emissive and a combined atlas. The combined atlas is height, occlusion, specular or smoothness and metallic maps combined, just to use less textures really as we go. So we can also add textures to our brush. We can obviously, whether the brush is visible or not is on there. The brush size, so let's make that a bit smaller. Let's halve it down to 128. The brush flow, so how much is coming out of the brush at the time. So the brush color is just the indicator, it's not the actual brush color itself. Just take a bit of alpha off that, and we can then, so we've got up to 16 color channels to access. So these first 4 are going to be in splat map 1, splat map 2, splat map 3 and splat map 4. I'm going to change these because they don't really correlate to what you can see in the Atlas settings, but I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm going to add a texture to this. So it's pretty simple. We just pick a channel, edit selected textures, and it gives us the Distingo Ultra texture manager. So now I can, within this one texture channel, I can set up the diffuse, normal, occlusion, height, emissive, smooth and metallic. I can alter the base multipliers, which is basically the initial level of tiling across the entire mesh or terrain. We've then, just like in regular Distingo, we've got min, max modifiers, normal power, occlusion power. We've got the addition of emissive power. We've also got the same metallic and smoothness power, but both of these are keyed off the smoothness and metallic maps you provide. And then we've got height blend multiplier and displacement multiplier. I'll come to those in a moment after we've done a bit of painting. So the first thing I want to do is I need to pick some textures to to go into this channel. So I've got a load of textures already here. I've got brick bumpy paving stones. Doesn't look brick bumpy. I'm not sure it's brick. Brick that looks nice and big. So I simply just drag and drop the textures that I need in the particular areas. There is no emissive. This is a nice black texture. I'm going to populate it anyway, but you don't have to at all. They'll get replaced with black in any case. So I can then put that out, but I can't use it yet because I need to bake it into the maps. But before I do that, I'm going to show you the channels being painted. So if I click show splat map, I'm going to alter this so it shows you whether it is currently showing or not. So if I check my brush again, I'm on flow 1, so I should be able to now start painting. Now while I'm recording it seems quite slow, but in real life without my recording software running, it's fine. Also the sliders there, but they're not showing up, and I don't know whether that's to do with my recording software or what. Bizarre. But yeah, so I can paint this area as I wish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to paint it all red, because you're not going to want to watch me paint the whole of this thing. It's going to take a while. So I've now painted this completely red, so that's it. I've painted that literally with the first texture channel, which we've not baked the texture in yet. If I pick the next texture channel, so it should be then painting in green, which obviously green and red gives us a yellow. I've also noticed, if you look at the moment, and I'll fix this when I paint with this tool, it's half the size of the actual brush size, so I'll sort that out as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover literally half. Don't know what's going on with my machine, but it seems to be a little bit quicker than it was earlier. So I'm going to paint it literally half, and what you can also see is it's rendering it to that, so I can see it actually happening on the splat map as well at the same time. So if you haven't got the view enabled to view splat map, you can see it actually happening in real time in your atlases as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually I'll add the second texture actually. So I'm going to use some sand, because I think that'll go good with these. Not dry and mud, desert sand will do. So I've got a normal, I've got no occlusion, but I've got a high normal, and then I've got this odd specular shiny bits to it. So I'm going to okay that. So now I've got two lots of textures in there. I'm going to switch this back to not showing the splat maps, which is obviously all black. We've got no textures baked in yet. And so I can select bake textures here. I can also select bake textures, bake all texture atlases here as well. But I'll use this one for now. So this is going to go. So really, you only want to do your bake textures once you've set all your textures up. So it just take a little bit of time just to build these atlases from the texture sets. Right. So making the combined. So as you can see, we've got already a level of blending going on already, but we can adjust this even further. So when I'm still on that texture channel, I'm going to drop that down to 0.05. So when I'm left clicking on painting, adding that texture, if I right click, I'm actually lowering the level of that paint at that particular channel, as you can see here. So if I show splat maps, you can see let's get my editor terrible. So as you can see, it's not getting rid of all the green on that channel, but it's lowering that level. So that's literally lowering the height of that texture at that point. So let's get back to what we had. So we've got that there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that back up to full again. Actually, I'll want that on back to full. So I'm going to do that, bring that up. And at the moment the textures are a bit big, you know, so I'll probably want this. So I'm going to go and I'm going to edit the UV base. I'm going let's make it 3 times as much. So now I've got more colour, you know, obviously more stones in the space. That's something I'm going to leave as it is for now. But as you can see, we've got, you know, a good level of texture blending going on there. And as I say, this is going to work exactly the same on your terrain as it is on this particular mesh. Yeah, so we can lower and drop those values. So we can also lower and drop the values against the texture channel themselves using the height blend multiplier. So that's at maximum at the moment. So I can raise and reduce that as it is. So if we if I bring that right down, I don't know, to 0.697, something like that, so you can have the texture gently bleed through the other textures, based again on on the splat map and their height blend values. So again, I can drop this right off, so there's very little. The height of the stones is next to nothing. So yeah, so that's the texture blending going on, which I think is pretty cool and can give us some pretty cool effects. So I'm gonna just make sure that I've rub these through. I'm actually probably going to change so that to 2, gives us a bit more granularity in the sand, I think. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Obviously I can have up to 16 textures on this mesh or terrain or whatever it is I'm using it for. But what we're going to do next is look at what the tessellation actually does and what we can do to make this a bit more realistic, a bit more of a. So at the moment we're all very flat. Okay, so I'm gonna get onto that now. So as I say, within each of these channels, all 16, we can alter the displacement multiplier. Excuse me, and that's basically how high physically we're going to render each of those slabs based on its height map. But in order to do that, we need to switch on the tessellation and the displacement values, really. So at the moment, tessellation is at its lowest value. Tessellation that's basically how much we're going to break up each one of these triangles. So if we put the scene into wireframe, actually shaded wireframe, so we can sort of see what's going on. So if we look at this, we can see. That's probably going to go wireframe, might be clearer. So we can see all the triangles that this thing's made up of. So each one of these triangles, based on the tessellation value, is going to get divided up into even more triangles. So as you can imagine, if you have a high level of tessellation, this could quite easily impact your frames per second. I'm going to, for now, just take switch the brush off so we don't have to see it. So I'm going to move this to, I don't know, let's try 1. So already you can see these triangles closer to the camera are getting chopped up into smaller and smaller triangles the closer we get to the camera. So obviously these ones in the distance aren't getting chopped up because there's no need for that level of detail at that distance. And that distance can be controlled through the min and max distance here. So if I set that to 1, it's only when we're 1 unit away that it's going to start. It's not even starting to chop it up. So when it's 5 away, you can see it's starting to chop up. I started off at a value of about 50 because that, in my experience so far, has been a good value. You've got a min distance as well, so min distance of 10, but I'll leave that at 0. And we've also got edge length. So basically what edge length controls is any triangle edge that's greater than or equal to this value also gets broken into more triangles. So we could move that down to something like 20, and that gives us even more detail for our money. And again, based on the distance, it's gonna do that. So I'm gonna put that to, I'll leave that at 20 actually for now. We've also got a Fong level. So what that does, Unity's function for creating the tessellation, gives us so if you understand shaders and lighting, there's a technique called Fong. It's a Fong lighting technique, and basically it uses the normals of the the geometry to decide how much light's hitting the surface, and it's using a similar thing to decide how that mesh is tessellated. So if you've got, especially for terrain, it's ideal. Not in this case because we've got a flat object, but in terrain it's ideal because it can give us a more natural curvature to the way it's tessellated and gives us a slightly better finish. Again, that doesn't have to be used. I tend to set that at 0.5 on terrains. Again, all these should be sliders, but for some reason Unity's decided with my recording software to not set them as sliders. So yes, as you can see, we've got greater tessellation the closer it gets to the camera. Now this tessellation is great, but it's taking up GPU cycles, and we're not really getting any benefit there at all. So if we've not selected it, you can't really tell that that's getting chopped up and giving us better resolution on against the mesh. So what we can do to improve that is use displacement. So displacement's going to take, based on the height map for each of these texture layers, it's going to raise these new triangles up out of the geometry to give us, hopefully, in the case of the bricks, they'll look like bricks. In the case of the sand, they'll look like the dunes that are on the sand texture. So we can see here we've got these little peaks and troughs. So when I'm going to set this to 1, it might go bang through the roof. So yeah, it's gone really big. We can raise the tessellation level, give us a bit more detail. But what we can also do, we could set it to 0.5 if we really wanted to. But I kind of like saying, well, we'll go with 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually play with the displacement multiplier for the particular texture level. Gives us a bit more control then on how it's going to look. So if we do that, I'm going to say we've gone down to 0.3. I'm going to go to 0.5 for that, and then I'm going to select this, take that to 0.25 maybe. So if we click off that, we're actually starting to get physical paving slabs coming up. As you can see, as we're getting a bit of movement on the mesh as we're moving around it, and that's just due to our tessellation settings. So we can improve on that. 220, 25. So if we move that up to something like 4, we've got a higher level of tessellation. It's a little bit better. If we go, 25 maybe, 16 maybe might be a good setting. But as I say, the more, so there's less movement now in the mesh as we're getting nearer and further away. But as we can see, that's still not ideal. What I'm going to do is get back to the textures, and I'm going to drop that down a little bit more. But altering the displacement multiplier doesn't alter the blend multiplier. So obviously if I bring that down, we bring in more sand up in between and so on. So it probably needs to be actually more sand. Yeah, I don't like that sand like that. So let's get the sand. Oh, 6. How's that looking? Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, 2.4. I'm going to go 0.125 for the height on that. Let's bring that back up to 1. Yeah, so now we've got quite a cool effect of the sand coming up and just covering some of the stones. I can now do something like 0.01, I think I'm going to use there. And I'm going to start rubbing out some of the stone, or lowering some of the stone height around here. So I'm going to reduce that to 128. Let's move around to here. Actually, let's go 256 and do. So I'm going to start reducing the height of the stones, bring them right down actually at this point where they meet the sand. As you can see, there's more sand coming up through the blocks. So I'm not going to do all this because obviously it'll take a while. But as you can see, you've got a fair bit of control over what you can actually do. So let's go back to this now. Come round. We've still got the height blending going on, so the sand's coming up and over the blocks. We can mix it up, and again these are fine detail things that we can add to our terrain and or mesh as we go, sort of thing. So let's get a bit more, like some sand down here. That's because I'm on a low brush setting. There we go. So I can now basically paint and blend my textures in wherever I like, really. And I've got a lot of control over how that looks, how it blends, the height restrictions. So let's run that. I've got a camera script which will let me just nip around the scene pretty simply. Seems my recording software is taking up a lot of resources. Doesn't normally take that long. Yeah, there we go. Right, so I can move around. So as you can see, it's as I move away, you can't really notice it because obviously these are all falling out of the tessellation range. So that's probably now just regular plane geometry. But now as you get closer, tessellation kicks in, starts raising them up. So as you can imagine, when you've got it running on your terrain, you'll be able to when you're actually close to the textures, you'll be able to have the things popping rocks. I think, as you probably saw on the last beta preview. Yeah, so I hope this has given you an idea of what you can do with it at the moment. As there's a few technical issues I've got at the minute. There's using the atlases, you can sometimes on certain textures get some ugly seams, and also we need to do a bit of a jiggery pokery with the normal maps. So at the moment, what happens when you bake your textures, at the moment it's creating the normal map and writing it into the Distingo resources folder, which I'll make that the creation of the normal map and where it places it configurable, because obviously some people don't like having rigid they like their own folder setups. So there's that. So you have to then make sure it's a normal, because for whatever reason I've not figured out how to generate the normal maps the data correctly runtime. So there's that, and the seams, and that's it really. You've got to watch as well the level of tessellation you have. Obviously the higher the level of tessellation, the harder it's going to be on your GPU, because you're just throwing so much more geometry at it than what it's actually needing to use to get that detail. And you've got to get that balance between good level of tessellation, edge length, Phong, and then the min-max distance, because you don't want to be tessellating stuff that's miles off in the distance that doesn't matter, doesn't need to be tessellated. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of how it's working at the moment. I'm hoping to improve the editor as well, because I'm not overly happy with it. But yeah, so that's where I am. I hope you found this interesting and informative, and I can't wait for you to get to have a play with it and see what it's like yourself. Bye.